In every negotiation, in every boardroom, in every deal cloaked in civility, remember this: business is war. Do not be deceived by polite smiles or handshakes. They are the drapes behind which ambition prowls. Those who speak of fairness often hide fear. Those who preach loyalty often disguise betrayal. To enter the arena unarmed with understanding is to invite defeat. You must see the currents beneath the surface, the shifting alliances, the whispered promises, the unspoken debts, and learn to move like the river that bends yet carries everything forward. Do not delude yourself that ethics alone can guard you. The world does not reward goodness. It rewards the one who can anticipate, who can manipulate circumstance as a sculptor shapes clay. Observe the nature of your competitors. Some are driven by hunger, others by vanity, and still others by the silent terror of irrelevance. Each has weaknesses, each has desires. Each will make a mistake if you know where to place the blade of subtlety. The battlefield is not only in contracts and deals, it is in perception, in the theater of appearances, where power is measured not by what is done openly, but by what is orchestrated in silence. Fear is the companion of respect. Those who are loved without caution are vulnerable. Those who are feared without cruelty command attention. Learn to balance the two, for excess in either will betray your position. The wise strategist understands that loyalty is conditional, that promises are fragile, that words are tools rather than bonds. You cannot mold men's hearts, but you can shape their actions. You cannot control chance, but you can bend its consequences in your favor through readiness, patience, and the relentless application of cunning. Do not mistake opportunity for inevitability. Power shifts like sand underfoot. One day, your advantage is unquestioned. The next, it crumbles. Observe the world as a general observes the terrain, where others see obstacles, see leverage, where others see setbacks, see openings to advance. A victory delayed is not lost if it is prepared for with precision. The unexpected is the ally of the vigilant, the enemy of the complacent. Betrayal is inevitable. You will be deceived by the ambitious, undermined by the envious, betrayed by the ones who swore fealty. Anticipate this. Welcome it as a teacher. Those who stumble at the first act of treachery reveal their weakness. Those who learn, adapt, and strike when least expected become unassailable. Forgive not from morality, but from strategy. Punish not from wrath, but from calculation. Every action is a move in the invisible war. Every silence, a maneuver. Every gesture, a declaration of intent. Appearances are more potent than reality. In the world of power, perception guides reality. To be admired, to be feared, to be considered indispensable, one must master the narrative of self. Your decisions, your presence, your reactions, they are all instruments of authority. A leader who cannot perform convincingly is a leader who cannot endure. The public sees shadows. The wise manipulate the shadows to conceal the mechanisms of command. Ambition is the hunger that drives all actors in this theater. Yet ambition without strategy is like a sword without an edge, lethal only in imagination. Every conquest, every expansion of influence must be weighed, calculated, and timed. Attack not when passion dictates, but when opportunity aligns with preparation. Retreat when wisdom dictates, for the strongest army is not the one that never yields, but the one that preserves its strength to strike with decisive force. Know your allies. Know your enemies. Know yourself. The first is transient, the second is constant, the third is the only asset you cannot afford to misjudge. Human nature is predictable in its patterns: greed, pride, fear, envy. Exploit these with subtlety. Avoid exposing your own vulnerabilities unnecessarily. Conceal the depth of your intent like a general who hides the positions of his forces. Anticipate the countermoves, the schemes, the silent machinations that will arise in response to your own strategies. In every encounter, the lesson is the same. Victory is not honor, it is survival. Success is not kindness, it is calculation. Those who cling to fairness above strategy are already defeated. The world does not reward sentiment, it rewards results. And those who understand that principle, who bend circumstance to their will without hesitation, will move unchallenged through arenas where others are entangled in the illusions of morality. Do not confuse patience with weakness. The one who waits, observes, and calculates is not idle but poised, a predator lying in shadow, aware of every heartbeat, every tremor in the ranks. Timing is the silent weapon that decides wars before swords are drawn. To strike too soon is to squander advantage. To strike too late is to invite ruin. Learn the rhythm of your arena, the pulse of those who move against you, and let your actions arrive as inevitabilities, as if destiny itself conspired to enact your will. Those who rise quickly often fall swiftly, for the world resists the unprepared. Consolidate power quietly, solidify loyalty with strategic concessions, and let your influence spread like a river that carves its path through stone. Subtlety is the cloak of strength. Ostentation is the herald of vulnerability. Never reveal the full extent of your reach, for ambition unchecked invites envy, and envy is the seed of conspiracy. Shield your intentions, mask your desires, and allow others to act as if they are free while they are in fact guided by your hand. The mind of man is both predictable and treacherous. Observe how fear breeds obedience, how hope tempts folly, how vanity corrupts judgment. Those who lead must understand that every human interaction is a transaction, every word a tool, every promise a potential instrument of leverage. Trust selectively, act decisively, and remember that even allies are instruments until proven otherwise. Every relationship carries the risk of betrayal. Every alliance is temporary unless anchored by mutual necessity and maintained through vigilant management. Ambition will collide with ambition. In those collisions, the strongest, not the noblest, will prevail. To survive is not to act with fairness, but to act with foresight. Consider the enemies you cannot defeat openly, redirect their energy, co-opt their allies, or undermine their influence invisibly. Do not hesitate to exploit the flaws of character, the lapses in judgment, the overconfidence that blinds even the most skilled. Success is built not on moral high ground, but on the careful orchestration of outcomes, the manipulation of circumstance, and the ruthless execution of strategy. Appearances are more powerful than reality, for men are often guided by perception rather than truth. Cultivate an image of decisiveness, of inevitability, of unassailable authority. Let rumors of your strength circulate even when you are consolidating quietly. Let the whispers of your acumen shape the expectations of competitors and subordinates alike. Influence what others believe before you reveal what you intend to do, for in the theater of power, belief can be as commanding as action. Control is exercised through adaptation. The world is never static, and those who fail to bend with circumstance are shattered upon it. Watch the shifting allegiances, the ebb and flow of opportunity, the currents of influence that carry men forward or drag them into irrelevance. Adaptation is not compromise. It is the recognition that the instrument of power must be tuned to its environment. Rigidity is fatal. Flexibility, when directed by purpose, is the engine of supremacy. Do not mistake kindness for weakness or generosity for virtue. Every concession you make should serve your strategic purpose. Every gesture of goodwill should reinforce your authority or secure a future advantage. The world does not reward the naive. Influence is won by those who understand leverage, who wield fear and favor alike, who maintain the illusion of choice while directing the outcomes that serve their designs. Isolation is a weapon as well as a risk. Distance allows clarity, removes the distraction of sentiment, and provides the space to calculate without interference. But those who isolate themselves entirely become blind to the currents that move beneath the surface. Walk among men when necessary, observe without participating, listen without responding, and learn the hidden patterns that guide decisions. Knowledge of the unseen is more potent than mastery of the obvious. In every transaction, every alliance, every confrontation, remember, The world operates according to principles of power, not morality. Virtue is useful only when it serves authority. Honesty is advantageous only when it benefits strategy. Disguise your intent behind the mask of decency when expedient. Reveal only what strengthens your position. The clever ruler does not deceive for malice, but for survival and supremacy. Every move must be deliberate, every decision measured, every consequence anticipated. Luck exists, but it favors the prepared. The one who anticipates change, who molds opportunity before it arrives, who positions himself to benefit from chance, commands the semblance of destiny. Unforeseen events cannot be eradicated, but they can be leveraged. The strong do not succumb to circumstance. They bend circumstance to their will. Observe, calculate, maneuver, and when the moment arrives, act with precision that leaves no room for error or challenge. Fear and respect are currencies more valuable than gold. Those who inspire them wield influence without overt force. Men are more willing to follow the one they believe inevitable than the one they merely admire. Command requires the orchestration of perception, the cultivation of presence, and the manipulation of expectation. The ruler who ignores these realities surrenders not only power, but the very ability to act decisively when it is required. Every victory is temporary, every advantage fragile, every position precarious. The wise do not celebrate success without preparing for the next challenge. Consolidation is as essential as conquest. Vigilance is as necessary as initiative. The moment you grow complacent, the currents of ambition around you shift, and what was once secure becomes contested. Maintain awareness, exercise control, and accept that permanence is an illusion. Only readiness secures continuity. Deception is not dishonor. It is the instrument of leadership. To be straightforward at all times is to invite manipulation by those who understand the necessity of disguise. Shape the perceptions of others, direct their expectations, and act in ways that secure your objectives without revealing the full measure of your intent. The world responds to the plausible, not the true. Master plausibility, and you master outcomes. Ambition without discipline is chaos. Power without foresight is collapse. To achieve supremacy, one must cultivate the intellect of a strategist, the patience of a predator, and the ruthlessness of a conqueror. Every choice is a calculation, every act a deployment of influence, every silence a maneuver. Recognize that you operate in a theater populated by men whose instincts are predictable, whose desires are exploitable, whose pride can be leveraged or shattered. Do not fear confrontation, but choose it wisely. Some battles are fought in silence, some in public display, and some in the hidden corridors where influence is decided by those unseen. Engage where advantage exists. Withdraw where prudence demands. The strong measure strength not by combat alone, but by the economy of force, the efficiency of strategy, and the foresight to strike decisively when it matters most. In every interaction, see beyond the surface. The promises men make are provisional, their loyalties conditional. Observe the subtle cues, the inconsistencies in speech and gesture, the hidden currents beneath formalities. Those who act with awareness can anticipate betrayal before it manifests, can redirect ambition to serve their designs, and can convert challenge into opportunity. To perceive the truth is to command the outcome. Do not indulge sentiment in governance, for it clouds judgment and invites disaster. Decisions must serve the continuity of power, the preservation of influence, and the expansion of opportunity. Compassion is strategic when it strengthens authority. Cruelty is expedient when it secures survival. Every action is a tool, every response a lever, every choice a vector toward consolidation or collapse. Knowledge of human nature is the foundation of command. Men act predictably in pursuit of gain, in defense of ego, in the shadow of fear. Exploit these tendencies subtly, for overt manipulation breeds resistance. Guide without apparent control, influence without visible effort, and let others act as if they choose while you shape the outcome. Mastery is hidden in the orchestration of unseen forces. Fortune smiles on the prepared, but opportunity favors those who can bend it to their purpose. Prepare relentlessly, calculate endlessly, anticipate ruthlessly. The tides of chance are relentless, yet they can be navigated by the vigilant. To survive and thrive is to embrace the inevitability of flux while exerting influence over its direction. Those who act with foresight will turn the currents of chaos into the instruments of domination. Power is a river, not a mountain. It flows, it shifts, it carries all who cannot anchor themselves to its banks. Bend with it without surrendering, guide it without controlling, harness it without exposure. The ruler who fears change is doomed. The ruler who cannot manipulate perception is powerless. Authority is an ecosystem of fear, respect, ambition, and calculation, and only the one who understands its subtle mechanics can survive its tempests. The world rewards those who act with clarity, who move with intent, who exploit circumstance without hesitation. Those who flinch at the first sign of resistance, who allow sentiment to cloud judgment, who fail to anticipate consequence, will be swept aside by those willing to see, to calculate, and to act. Leadership is not virtue. It is the relentless application of strategy, the calm orchestration of influence, the quiet shaping of reality. Ambition is a fire that must be fed by calculation and restrained by foresight. To move without plan is to burn without warmth, to shine without guidance, to destroy without purpose. Those who leap into the fray propelled only by desire will discover the limits of their strength too late, and the consequences will be borne not by rivals, but by themselves. Observe, weigh, and position every move. Let desire guide strategy, but never supplant it. Every victory won in haste is fragile. Every conquest seized without preparation is temporary, and every advantage grasped without understanding will be turned against the unwary. Alliances are instruments, never sacraments. Treat them as you would a blade, sharp, useful, dangerous if mishandled. Those who stand beside you today may stand against you tomorrow, and those who oppose you may become allies if circumstance bends rightly. Do not cling to friendship. Do not mourn the withdrawal of loyalty, and do not be seduced by the comfort of mutual affection. Power is fluid. Only adaptability ensures continuity. Measure value in utility, weigh allegiance in consequence, and act with the precision of one who knows the cost of misjudgment. The weak are always in motion, driven by fear or hope, unable to stabilize their position. The strong, in contrast, act with patience and calculation, and they manipulate the motions of others as a master moves pieces on a board. To dominate, observe the patterns, anticipate the impulses, and position yourself where they cannot act without revealing their hand. Timing, discretion, and the subtle orchestration of influence are the true currencies of power. Those who chase appearances, who react rashly to rumor or provocation, will never see the game for what it is, and will always be outmaneuvered by those who operate invisibly, decisively, and without hesitation. Deception is the natural environment of command. The one who cannot deceive will be deceived. The one who cannot anticipate falsehood will fall victim to it. But deception is not mere dishonesty. It is the careful manipulation of perception to guide action, the silent shaping of expectation, the orchestration of belief to achieve desired ends. To mislead without exposing vulnerability is the mark of a true strategist. To be perceived as formidable while conserving strength is mastery. To hide intention while channeling consequence is supremacy. Observe the weaknesses of those who presume stability. Pride blinds more than ignorance. Ambition outstrips prudence, and fear distorts judgment. Exploit these tendencies not for cruelty, but for leverage. Position yourself where their errors become instruments of your advancement. Redirect energy, manipulate perception, and act where the momentum of human folly serves your designs. Every misstep is a tool, every lapse a lever. The world is shaped less by brute force than by those who understand the invisible forces that move men and institutions alike. Fear and respect must be cultivated deliberately. Those who are loved without caution are discarded without thought. Those who are feared without balance provoke rebellion. The wise calibrate influence carefully, granting recognition and withholding it in equal measure, presenting both approachability and unassailable authority. Every gesture, every word, every decision communicates power beyond the immediate effect. Mastery is often measured not in acts, but in impressions, not in declarations, but in silence, not in the obvious, but in the unseen. The currents of fortune are inexorable, yet those who anticipate their shifts harness them. Chance is not benevolent, but it is predictable in its patterns. Crises reveal character, opportunity reveals ambition, and chaos reveals preparedness. The one who stands ready, who positions advantage quietly, who acts with precision when the moment demands, converts fortune into instrument. The unprepared are swept aside, the reckless consumed, the indecisive paralyzed. To survive is to anticipate, to control, and to strike with measured inevitability. Silence is a weapon, and observation its ally. Speak only to advance purpose, act only to consolidate. Words are often weaker than deeds, and appearance often more compelling than truth. Cultivate an aura of inevitability, for men respond more to the certainty of consequence than to moral argument. Presence shapes perception, perception guides action, action secures outcome. To be decisive, one must appear deliberate. To command respect, one must convey control. To survive, one must master the theater before engaging the battle. Every action must be weighed in terms of consequence. A single miscalculation can undo years of preparation. A single misjudgment can unravel alliances, embolden rivals, and expose vulnerability. Consider outcomes before gestures. Anticipate reactions before strategy, and measure risk against gain relentlessly. Hesitation invites encroachment, impulsivity invites disaster, indecision invites the maneuvering of others. Power is sustained not by audacity alone, but by the unbroken chain of foresight, discipline, and strategic clarity. The machinery of influence operates invisibly, yet its effects are tangible. Reputation, expectation, fear, and desire are forces as potent as armies. Shape them deliberately, for they guide action without revealing source. Align perception with objective, manipulate belief to enable outcome, and channel ambition to serve your design. Those who fail to see these forces cannot control them. Those who do not act upon them cannot endure. To dominate is to orchestrate not only events, but the very framework within which events occur. Loyalty is conditional. Obedience is transactional. Men serve not for principle, but for advantage, for survival, for recognition. Those who expect permanence in fealty are doomed to disappointment. Reward where useful, restrain where necessary, anticipate defection, and manage influence with relentless consistency. Power is not granted by gratitude, but by the perception of necessity and the ability to enforce consequence. The wise ruler leverages both reward and threat to preserve authority, knowing that equilibrium is fragile and must be maintained vigilantly. Opportunity is fleeting, advantage is fragile. Recognize the transient nature of both and act with decisiveness when the moment presents itself. Delay erodes position, hesitation invites exploitation, and overconfidence blinds to the shifting landscape. Strategy demands both patience and audacity, the simultaneous ability to wait for the right moment and to act with overwhelming precision when it arrives. The world does not accommodate the indecisive, it rewards the resolute. Preparation is the true mark of strength. Those who rely on instinct alone may achieve temporary gains, but they lack sustainability. Anticipate scenarios, simulate opposition, understand incentives, and position resources in ways that render action decisive and resistance costly. Strength is not merely presence, but the quiet readiness to convert circumstance into dominance. Those who neglect preparation court vulnerability, while those who embrace it secure control over the unseen vectors that dictate outcome. Manipulation is not dishonor, It is survival. The naive expect forthrightness. The wise exploit expectation. Guide perception subtly, influence judgment imperceptibly, and direct consequence invisibly. Humans respond to what they believe, not necessarily what is true. Control belief, and you control action. Control action, and you control outcome. The world bows not to morality, but to the mastery of these invisible levers. In the theater of enterprise, every negotiation is a battlefield, every alliance a temporary fortification, every contract a map of potential betrayal. Observe closely, for those who appear most agreeable may conceal ambition sharper than any blade. Trust is the currency of fools, suspicion is the capital of the prudent. Anticipate the ambitions of others as if reading the currents of a river, and position yourself where the flow serves your passage rather than opposing it. The mind that calculates patiently, the hand that strikes without hesitation, and the presence that projects both command and discretion are the tools by which dominance is achieved. Power is not distributed by merit, but by perception. Those who appear indispensable, those who cultivate indispensability through subtle influence and controlled visibility, accumulate leverage over time. Visibility must be balanced with discretion. Exposure reveals vulnerability. The one who is always seen may be always targeted. Silence and subtlety are as formidable as action. The unseen hand often directs events more effectively than the loudest decree. Influence, carefully placed, can reroute the intentions of many without ever revealing its source. Ambition is rarely linear. It moves in cycles of apparent dormancy and sudden eruption, much like tectonic plates beneath the surface, imperceptible until the earth shifts beneath those unprepared. Observe patterns of behavior, detect the small fissures in loyalty, anticipate the tremors of desire and fear. Prepare to exploit these movements with precision, timing interventions where others are blind, and converting momentary weakness into permanent advantage. Those who misunderstand the nature of ambition mistake patience for passivity and are outmaneuvered by those who understand its rhythms. Rivalry is inevitable. It is not a question of whether opposition will arise, but when, how, and in what form. The prudent leader studies competitors not with the expectation of eliminating them outright, but with the goal of predicting their moves, shaping their options, and constraining their choices. A well-positioned adversary can be guided to act in ways that serve your interests, while a misjudged enemy becomes a threat that can undo all preparation. Control is not achieved by force alone. It is secured through anticipation, manipulation, and the quiet orchestration of circumstance. Perception governs reality. Men and institutions act upon what they believe, not necessarily upon truth. To influence perception is to shape consequence. Manage appearances meticulously, for the impression of strength often outweighs strength itself. A single misstep in projection can undo the best-laid plans. The capable leader understands that reputation is an instrument as sharp as a sword, capable of cutting opportunities open or severing them entirely. Guard it, wield it, and recognize that perception, once lost, is difficult to reclaim. Risk is omnipresent, yet calculable. Every choice carries potential gain and inevitable consequence. Those who ignore risk invite ruin. Those who overestimate it stagnate. Balance is achieved through constant assessment. Measure the stakes, anticipate reactions, and position resources where exposure is minimized and impact maximized. A decisive act, prepared with foresight and executed with precision, transforms risk into leverage. Hesitation surrenders initiative. Rashness forfeits control. The difference between survival and failure lies in the mastery of risk. Control of information is control of action. Those who understand the flow of knowledge can shape decision-making without ever revealing their hand. Words spoken carelessly or signals given without strategic intent become liabilities. Silence and selective disclosure are tools of influence. They allow events to unfold in ways that favor the prepared. To act with certainty, one must first observe without revealing, understand without disclosing, and guide without appearing to guide. The world responds to what it perceives. Shape that perception, and you shape reality. Loyalty is conditional, yet expectation is constant. The prudent leader rewards utility, corrects with discretion, and positions influence where it maintains advantage. Punishment, when necessary, must be swift and unambiguous. Reward, when applied, must reinforce dependency and gratitude. The human tendency to self-interest is immutable. To presume otherwise is folly. Harness it, direct it, and structure consequences such that compliance aligns with self-preservation. The architecture of loyalty is built upon clarity of consequence and the inevitability of recompense or reprisal. Fortune favors those who prepare relentlessly. Opportunities arise without notice, crises erupt without warning, and chaos becomes the testing ground of strategy. The unprepared are overwhelmed, the adaptable endure. Preparation is not passive anticipation, but active positioning. Resources, alliances, intelligence, and influence must be orchestrated in advance, so that when circumstance demands, the response is immediate, precise, and decisive. Luck is nothing but the intersection of readiness and timing. To cultivate it is to control it. Observation of human nature is fundamental. Desire, fear, ambition, envy, and pride drive behavior more reliably than reason or principle. Predictable in their irrationality, men act upon these forces even when unaware. Exploit them with precision, tempt desire, provoke fear, inflame ambition, manipulate envy, and respect pride. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to guide outcome, to channel intent, to convert instinct into instrument. Understanding motive is more valuable than controlling action. Anticipation precedes intervention, and insight precedes victory. Power is a matter of positioning, patience, and precision. The impulsive squander opportunity, the indecisive yield initiative, the arrogant invite opposition. Every decision, every action, every omission sends signals to allies and adversaries alike. Those who understand the rhythm of influence harness it. Those who ignore it are buffeted by forces beyond their control. To command is to integrate foresight, adaptability, and action into a seamless orchestration that aligns circumstance with intention. Conflict is inevitable, yet combat is not always direct. Manipulation, negotiation, subversion, and perception often accomplish what armies cannot. The master strategist chooses methods appropriate to the moment, using minimal cost for maximal advantage. Direct confrontation, when unavoidable, is a culmination of prior positioning, information control, and psychological leverage. Victory is rarely the result of brute force alone. It emerges from the careful orchestration of conditions in which opposition acts according to your design. Ambition unchecked is destructive. Ambition disciplined is power. Desire alone may inspire action, but without direction, it dissipates. Channel ambition, align it with opportunity, and shape it through circumstance. Those who rise without control are fragile, vulnerable to envy and counteraction. Those who temper desire with calculation become resilient, adaptable, and inevitable. The balance between drive and restraint is the crucible in which enduring power is forged. Influence is subtle, yet inexorable. The one who acts overtly invites resistance. The one who operates through nuance guides outcomes invisibly. Direct orders provoke scrutiny. Suggestions shape action. Reward shapes behavior more effectively than punishment when applied discreetly. Threat enforces boundaries when visible consequences are clear. The orchestration of influence is both art and science, requiring understanding of temperament, perception, and context. Those who master it bend the world to design without confrontation. The machinery of leadership is relentless. Decisions ripple outward, consequences magnify, and every act is observed, interpreted, and reacted to. Control demands attention to detail, anticipation of reaction, and management of perception. Those who lead without understanding this architecture are consumed by it. Those who ignore the human variables within it are blindsided by them. Power is sustained not by charisma alone, but by the integration of strategy, psychology, and foresight into every moment of action. Fortune, fear, loyalty, deception, these are constants, timeless and unavoidable. They shape behavior, constrain choices, and define the boundaries of possibility. To lead is to navigate them with clarity and ruthlessness, to convert circumstance into advantage, and to operate where others react. Predictability in action may invite counterplay. Unpredictability without preparation invites collapse. Mastery is the alignment of awareness, calculation, and timing, executed with precision and sustained with patience. Every system is a battlefield, every relationship a negotiation of power. Recognize where influence flows, where ambition pushes, and where fear restricts. Position yourself where control can be maintained, leverage applied, and opposition mitigated. Those who misread dynamics are overtaken. Those who underestimate subtle forces are undermined. Power is rarely absolute. It is managed, negotiated, and defended continually. To endure is to anticipate, to respond, and to act before circumstance forces action. The silent hand guides more effectively than the visible fist. Influence, perception, and anticipation achieve what force alone cannot. Position, leverage, and timing determine outcome more reliably than volume or aggression. Those who understand this act not because they desire confrontation, but because they recognize necessity. Those who act without understanding are swept aside, their ambitions trivialized, their actions rendered meaningless. Control is cultivated in the unseen, exercised in the calculated, and sustained through relentless awareness. Strategy is the lifeblood of survival. Without it, effort is squandered, opportunity wasted, and vulnerability exposed. Align resources, anticipate reactions, and manipulate circumstances so that action is decisive, consequence predictable, and opposition constrained. Every decision communicates intent. Every act shapes perception. Every omission creates expectation. The mastery of power is not in reaction, but in orchestration, not in display, but in the integration of foresight, discipline, and subtlety. Every decision carries with it the weight of unseen consequences, the reverberations of choice through networks of ambition and fear. To act without understanding these ripples is to invite catastrophe. To act with foresight is to command reality itself. Observe the subtleties of interaction. A glance, a hesitation, a carefully measured word, all are indicators of intent. All are instruments of leverage. Those who fail to read them are led by circumstance rather than guiding it. Position is not simply where one stands, but how one is perceived to stand, and how that perception shapes the actions of others. Allies are provisional, their loyalty bound by interest, circumstance, and advantage. They are useful only insofar as they serve the design. They are dangerous when assumed permanent. The prudent leader engages with them strategically, rewards them selectively, and disciplines them discreetly when necessary. Every relationship is a negotiation of power, a transaction of influence, a calculation of risk. The one who misjudges a friend becomes a victim to their ambition. The one who exploits them wisely converts cooperation into advantage, alignment into control. Envy is a force as potent as ambition, subtle in its onset and destructive in its eruption. To command is to incite envy. To inspire success is to provoke resentment. Anticipate these currents and channel them where they cannot undermine authority. Praise publicly but critique privately. Reward visibly but constrain opportunity. Allow advancement but maintain control. Those who ignore the social currents of envy are blindsided by them, toppled not by force but by the silent erosion of influence. Fear is an instrument to be wielded with precision, not terror, which breeds rebellion, but the careful awareness of consequence, the understanding that every act has its price. Fear stabilizes when predictable, motivates when consistent, and enforces obedience when aligned with self-interest. Punishment must be deliberate, swift, and unmistakable. Mercy, when extended, must reinforce dependency, not compromise authority. To master fear is to channel it, to bend it into alignment with strategy, and to ensure it operates as a tool, not a liability. Deception is a necessary currency. Truth is a fragile commodity in the marketplace of power. Those who insist upon transparency invite vulnerability. Those who master perception control outcomes without overt confrontation, craft narratives that serve intent, obscure motives without detection, and manipulate appearances to guide expectation. Subtlety is an ally. Overt manipulation is a risk. The one who deceives with elegance avoids the clash of resistance, bending events to design while preserving the facade of choice. Ambition is a double-edged sword. Harnessed, it drives action and compels loyalty. Uncontrolled, it provokes rivalry and destabilizes authority. Recognize the ambitions of others before they recognize them themselves. Channel desire into productive avenues, neutralize latent threats, and reward efforts that reinforce structure rather than undermine it. The prudent leader does not extinguish ambition, but integrates it, converting potential disruption into strategic leverage, transforming aspiration into alignment. Information is the lifeblood of dominance. Knowledge of intention, capability, and opportunity allows action to preempt reaction. To hoard information is to create power. To distribute it carelessly is to invite chaos. Cultivate networks. Listen more than you speak. Observe more than you act. The one who understands the landscape of intelligence moves unseen, controls unseen, and strikes with inevitability. Those without awareness react, stumble, and are consumed by forces they neither perceived nor anticipated. Reputation is both armor and weapon. Its maintenance requires deliberate action, careful timing, and selective exposure. Strength must be displayed where necessary, restraint exhibited where expected, and vulnerability concealed unless it serves design. The perception of consistency instills confidence, the projection of capability commands respect, and the subtle hint of ruthlessness deters challenge. Reputation, once compromised, invites exploitation. Once established, it magnifies influence without further exertion. Crisis is opportunity revealed in disguise. The unprepared see chaos, the prepared see leverage. Those who act decisively in disorder convert uncertainty into advantage, anticipate reactions before others register threat, and consolidate power where others flounder. Stability is a consequence of mastery, not a gift of circumstance. To endure the storms of conflict is to position resources, manipulate perception, and orchestrate behavior so that disorder becomes a vehicle of ascendance rather than descent. Manipulation of expectation is paramount. Men act according to anticipated outcomes, influence these anticipations, and behavior follows predictably. Signal decisiveness when indecision would invite challenge. Display restraint when rashness would provoke reaction. Create ambiguity when clarity would constrain options. Each gesture, each communication, each omission is a tool to shape behavior, constrain choices, and orchestrate results without direct confrontation. The environment, when guided subtly, serves the strategist's will without overt imposition. The architecture of control is cumulative. Each act reinforces authority. Each omission communicates priorities. Each interaction shapes perception. Power is not maintained through singular demonstrations, but through relentless, consistent, and deliberate orchestration of circumstance, behavior, and perception. Those who neglect the structural nature of influence see it erode slowly, then collapse rapidly. Those who understand it maintain dominance through a network of aligned incentives, visible signals, and managed consequences. Adaptability is survival. Those who cling rigidly to principle, method, or expectation are overtaken by the fluidity of circumstance. Observation must be constant, assessment continuous, and response calibrated. Flexibility in strategy is not compromise, but preservation. It allows the leader to absorb shocks, exploit shifts, and emerge intact while less agile rivals falter. Rigidity is a vulnerability. Responsiveness is power manifested. The interplay of loyalty and self-interest defines every relationship. Align incentives such that compliance serves self-preservation. Structure consequences so that defection carries inevitable cost. Human behavior is rarely guided by abstract principle. It is motivated by consequence, opportunity, and desire. To lead is to shape these forces, to integrate them into architecture of influence that preserves authority while permitting initiative within controlled boundaries. Observation of timing is critical. Premature action exposes weakness. Delayed action forfeits opportunity. Mastery is not simply knowing what to do, but knowing when to act. The rhythm of events, the tempo of reactions, and the cadence of opportunity must be anticipated, measured, and utilized. To dominate is to integrate perception, patience, and precision so that every act occurs at the intersection of maximal leverage and minimal resistance. Every environment is a complex system of interest, fear, and ambition. To navigate it is to map the currents of influence, anticipate the collision of objectives, and position oneself where opportunity aligns with control. Strategy is not reaction to events, but orchestration of circumstance. Influence is not demand, but guidance of expectation. Power is not possession, but management of potential and consequence. Those who understand this wield authority as naturally as breath. The concealment of intent is as vital as the clarity of action. Reveal purpose too soon, and opponents anticipate countermeasure. Conceal it too long, and allies hesitate, confused. Timing, disclosure, and signal management are instruments of influence. The adept leader communicates selectively, acts decisively, and allows others to believe they shape events, while the architect directs from behind the curtain. Illusion, when harnessed, is as potent as reality itself. Rivals are best neutralized not by confrontation, but by constraint. Limit options, shape perception, manipulate expectation, and the opposition acts in ways that serve the strategist's design. Force is blunt, manipulation is precise. Direct aggression invites resistance. Subtle orchestration achieves outcome without confrontation. Anticipate the ambitions, fears, and desires of rivals, and convert their actions into mechanisms of your advantage. The theater of influence is both stage and battlefield, each participant an actor, each move consequential. Every concession, every compromise must be measured not by moral calculation, but by strategic consequence. To yield is not weakness if it preserves advantage. To insist is folly if it invites destruction. The wise leader calculates the cost of every gesture, the potential yield of every acquiescence, and the long-term architecture that emerges from each choice. Patience is weaponized, restraint becomes leverage, and the appearance of humility can mask the consolidation of power. Those who mistake submission for weakness are blinded to the strategic mind at work, and they are consumed before awareness dawns. Competition is inevitable, yet its form is mutable. Some rivals confront openly, their methods transparent and their ambitions visible. Others act through obscured channels, invisible until their influence has already permeated the field. The shrewd operator does not treat all adversaries alike. Open threats are met with measured resistance, invisible ones with surveillance, anticipation, and subtle containment. Every competitor presents data. Every opposition is an experiment in the limits of influence. Observation, discretion, and intervention transform conflict into a calculated instrument rather than a hazard. Control over perception is as crucial as control over resources. Reality is filtered through the minds of others, and their decisions are shaped by what they see, believe, and anticipate. To shape these perceptions is to guide their choices without ever resorting to force. Reputation, rumor, public display, and selective revelation all function as levers of influence. The ruler who ignores this dimension acts blindly. The master manipulates appearance as a sculptor shapes clay, carving outcomes from the raw material of belief. Trust is transactional, not sentimental. It is granted selectively, conditioned upon benefit, and withdrawn without hesitation when it ceases to serve purpose. The naive equate trust with virtue, the strategic equate it with leverage. By constructing dependencies, by binding others' fortunes to the preservation of authority, the prudent leader converts trust into a mechanism of control. Simultaneously, they remain insulated, autonomous, and capable of acting unilaterally when circumstances demand. Dependence becomes a shield, loyalty, a currency, betrayal, a predictable risk calculated in advance. Institutions are extensions of influence. They shape behavior, establish expectation, and codify consequence. To command them is to channel human action with reliability beyond individual temperament. Yet institutions are not inherently stable. They reflect the priorities, weaknesses, and perception of those who manage them. Authority is reinforced when institutions operate efficiently, but it is undermined when structure is allowed to stagnate, when rules are ignored, or when control is ceded to those without comprehension of broader strategy. Leadership is both the engine and the steward of systemic power. The manipulation of allies is as vital as the suppression of rivals. Alignment is never permanent. It is contingent upon circumstance, benefit, and perception. By anticipating shifts in interest, by redirecting ambition through incentives, and by creating dependency through opportunity, one maintains the initiative. The alliance is thus both a tool and a stage. It signals strength, deters external challenge, and consolidates internal influence, all while embedding flexibility to recalibrate as conditions evolve. Observation of human nature is inexhaustible. Ambition, fear, desire, envy, and hope form the substrate upon which strategy is built. To disregard these forces is to surrender control. To comprehend them is to render behavior predictable. Individuals act not by principle but by advantage. They respond not to fairness but to consequence. The strategist transforms this understanding into architecture, a framework where self-interest is aligned with structural intent, where each action is anticipated, and where the flow of human energy serves calculated objectives rather than random impulses. Timing is the silent architect of victory. Act too soon, and your maneuver is neutralized. Delay, and opportunity vanishes. The master senses the rhythm of events, measures the inertia of systems, and positions resources in anticipation of convergence. Decisive intervention occurs not in chaos, but at the intersection of readiness and vulnerability, where the weight of action is magnified and resistance minimized. To understand timing is to move with inevitability, to strike where the field itself concedes outcome before conflict arises. Risk is an instrument, not a hazard to be feared. Calculated exposure, when aligned with information, influence, and control, becomes a lever of advancement. The one who avoids all danger avoids all opportunity, and the one who embraces it without discernment courts ruin. Mastery lies in measuring potential gain against potential loss, structuring consequence, and positioning oneself such that risk operates as a catalyst for dominance rather than a vector for defeat. The orchestration of conflict is subtle. Open confrontation consumes resources and invites resistance. Indirect influence, manipulation, and controlled escalation achieve similar ends with minimal cost. Rivalries can be engineered to neutralize each other. Threats can be funneled into predictable channels, and opposition can be converted into instruments of one's strategy. The battlefield is not merely terrain, but perception, expectation, and initiative. To control these is to win before engagement, to dominate through orchestration rather than attrition. Authority is maintained as much by restraint as by action. Demonstration of power communicates capability, but moderation signals control. Overextension invites challenge. Inconsistency erodes confidence. The prudent leader calibrates action to context, ensures visibility aligns with intent, and leverages restraint to amplify influence. To wield power effectively is to balance assertion with observation, initiative with patience, and revelation with concealment. The equilibrium of authority is fragile, yet when mastered, it becomes self-reinforcing and enduring. Isolation, when strategic, is power. By maintaining distance, the leader preserves clarity, avoids manipulation, and secures autonomy. Access is granted selectively, influence is distributed with precision, and interaction is filtered through layers of observation. Proximity can be exploited by rivals. Engagement without discretion invites subversion. To walk alone, in the spaces between attention and expectation, is to command freely, unencumbered by the whims, ambitions, or resentments of others. Every decision is a negotiation between reality and aspiration. Principles are instruments, not absolutes. Ethics are context, dependent frameworks, not universal rules. To insist on ideal without regard for consequence is to court disaster. The effective strategist bends principle to purpose, aligns action with context, and molds behavior to structural need. The landscape of power is indifferent to morality. It responds only to perception, consequence, and capability. Those who operate within its parameters succeed. Those who ignore them are swept aside. Every action sends ripples through networks of expectation and allegiance, shaping not only immediate outcomes, but the architecture of future possibility. The ruler who understands this acts with foresight, preempting disruption, bending circumstance to design, and converting potential chaos into leverage. The one who ignores it is buffeted by events, reacting without control, consumed by forces he neither anticipated nor commanded. Authority is not maintained in a vacuum. It is an emergent property of perception, consequence, and the disciplined orchestration of opportunity. Ambition must be guided, not suppressed. To extinguish desire is to invite stagnation. To ignore it is to court rebellion. Recognize the latent drives within associates, allies, and rivals. Direct them where they reinforce structure, and neutralize them where they threaten stability. Motivation is rarely moral. It is incentive-based, fear-infused, and opportunistic. Align it with strategic objectives, and it becomes a tool of governance. Misalign it, and it becomes a vector of instability, erosion, and defeat. The management of uncertainty is central to dominance. Conditions fluctuate, loyalties shift, and fortunes change with imperceptible velocity. The master of circumstance anticipates these currents, positions resources accordingly, and manipulates perception to ensure that change consolidates rather than undermines authority. Contingency planning is not a hedge. It is the very architecture of survival. Those who fail to recognize volatility as a constant are consumed by it before awareness allows reaction. Influence is subtle, pervasive, and cumulative. It accumulates not through grandiose demonstration alone, but through the careful orchestration of small, often invisible acts that reinforce perception, expectation, and dependence. Words, gestures, rewards, and omissions are all instruments in this symphony of control. To neglect minor levers is to forfeit the structure of power. To manipulate them effectively is to construct a lattice through which authority flows inexorably, shaping outcomes before direct action is necessary. Observation of human behavior is inexhaustible. Men reveal intentions in hesitation, in overcompensation, in the subtleties of speech and gesture. To perceive these signals is to anticipate action, to exploit weakness, and to channel ambition. Incompetence, impetuosity, and pride are as predictable as the turning of seasons. The prudent strategist positions advantage in anticipation of these predictable human rhythms, converting potential unpredictability into controlled mechanism. Information must be curated, controlled, and weaponized. Knowledge of allies, rivals, markets, and environment is the currency of influence. Its selective distribution shapes expectation, guides behavior, and constrains opposition. The leader who hoards insight preserves initiative. The one who disperses it indiscriminately invites erosion of authority. Control over data and perception allows action without confrontation, manipulation without exposure, and dominance without visible exertion of force. Fear is most effective when paired with respect and predictability. Arbitrary terror breeds resistance. Consistent consequence shapes behavior. The threat of loss, Withdrawal of privilege or exposure of weakness must be calibrated, delivered with precision, and perceived as inevitable. Those who underestimate the value of disciplined fear mistake it for cruelty. Those who harness it transform compliance into structured stability, preempting rebellion before it arises. Rivalry is a laboratory of opportunity. Conflict is inevitable, yet its outcomes are manipulable. By shaping perception, constraining options, and orchestrating engagement, opposition can be converted into leverage. The one who anticipates ambition, predicts reaction, and integrates rivalry into design ensures that confrontation, when it occurs, is advantageous rather than costly. Adversaries act in accordance with the pressures applied. They are instruments in the hands of the strategist who understands the architecture of influence. Deception is a disciplined art, the projection of intent, the masking of purpose, and the strategic revelation of information control behavior. Those who operate in transparency invite exploitation. Those who manipulate perception orchestrate outcome. Truth is a resource, to be deployed selectively, calibrated to consequence, and shaped to maximize control. The subtle application of deception ensures that others act in alignment with design without recognizing their subjugation to it. Control is systemic, not episodic. It arises from the accumulation of aligned incentives, disciplined perception management, and the continuous modulation of consequence. Each decision, interaction, and communication reinforces authority or erodes it. Each omission, allowance, or reward conveys expectation. Power is maintained not through occasional displays, but through relentless, consistent orchestration. The ruler who recognizes this operates with inevitability, guiding outcomes as the river shapes sediment, unobserved but unstoppable. Isolation is strategic clarity. Distance preserves independence, mitigates manipulation, and enhances perception. Engagement is selective, access controlled, and communication filtered. Proximity can dilute influence, expose vulnerability, and invite challenge. Autonomy provides a platform for observation, calculation, and decisive action, unimpeded by immediate pressure. To stand apart is not weakness, but a position of command from which influence radiates rather than being consumed by others. Every interaction is an equation of leverage. Alliances are negotiated, dependencies engineered, and obedience cultivated through calibrated reward and consequence. Loyalty is neither assumed nor granted freely. It is constructed through a system of aligned incentives and managed perception. Betrayal is not an anomaly, but a predictable factor. Its anticipation and mitigation is the mark of the capable leader. Relationships are instruments, each selected for utility, each maintained for alignment, each terminated when counterproductive. Timing is invisible strategy. Intervention, decision, and action are effective only when aligned with opportunity and readiness. Premature aggression exposes vulnerability. Delayed response forfeits advantage. Mastery lies in sensing the rhythm of events, positioning resources in anticipation, and acting at the inflection point where leverage is maximized and resistance minimized. Initiative exercised at the correct moment transforms the trajectory of events, rendering opposition reactionary rather than directive. Adaptation is survival encoded. Circumstances shift, human behavior fluctuates, and external conditions are perpetually mutable. Rigidity is liability, flexibility is dominance. The strategist observes, assesses, and recalibrates continuously, ensuring that methods remain effective, advantage remains secure, and opportunity is harvested while others are immobilized by inertia. Change is inevitable. Those who harness it command its flow rather than succumb to it. Every victory carries the seeds of challenge. Consolidation requires vigilance, reinforcement, and continuous assessment. Success creates envy, inspires ambition, and provokes fear. To preserve advantage is to manage perception, sustain dependence, and reinforce structure. Authority is not a moment but a continuum. Its maintenance demands attention, calculation, and unceasing orchestration. Those who neglect this are toppled not by external force alone, but by the quiet erosion of misaligned ambition, unmanaged perception, and unmitigated consequence. Power is not granted, it is seized, maintained, and perpetually defended. The world offers no absolutes, no guarantees, and no safety for those unwilling to confront its mechanisms. To lead is to accept the cold calculus of consequence, the inevitability of betrayal, the friction of ambition, and the fragility of trust. Every advantage is temporary, every alliance conditional, every reputation contingent upon perception and action. The ruler who survives is the one who perceives opportunity where others see chaos, who converts fear into order, who molds ambition into instrumentality. He is patient without stagnation, decisive without recklessness, and relentless without indulgence. He understands that victory is not celebrated but secured, that control is maintained not through virtue but through comprehension of human nature, circumstance, and timing. And yet power is not an end, but a crucible. It tests the mind, sharpens strategy, and demands clarity where sentiment tempts compromise. To master it is to acknowledge that morality is mutable, loyalty is conditional, and appearance is as consequential as action. The leader must embrace solitude, cultivate perception, and move unseen yet decisive, for visibility invites contest, and hesitation invites collapse. In the final accounting, survival is the measure, and influence is the currency. To command without distraction, to maneuver without exposure, to act with inevitability, this is the architecture of authority. Those who aspire must accept that the theater of power is both intimate and merciless, that every choice echoes, every omission speaks, and every calculation matters. Step into this arena fully aware. The laws are unwritten, the consequences unyielding, the terrain relentless. But those who understand the machinery of ambition, the currents of human desire, and the patterns of opportunity can navigate, dominate, and endure. Power, once seized with comprehension, is both shield and instrument. Survival is no longer gamble but design. Victory is no longer chance but inevitability. Business is war, and war is life. To lead without illusion, to act without hesitation, to shape without surrender, this is the final truth. The field is yours, but only for those who see clearly, calculate relentlessly, and move decisively. All else is surrender. All else is lost.